Do you find it difficult to focus on your customers and even your own employees as you're juggling numerous vendors? Do you have more meetings with vendors than you can count? And do their reports filled with technical jargon make you feel clueless and frustrated? Such is the story of Nathan. Being at a car dealership, he's concerned about his store's digital marketing presence and invests most of his time dealing with vendors to promote his business and gain more sales and market share. Nathan is busy handling reports and reviewing them, not knowing what is happening on the advertising front and about his true ROI. Poor Nathan is worried but can't figure out a solution until he found BZ Consultants Group. BZ Consultants stepped in and was able to take the digital marketing vendor burden off Nathan's plate, giving him peace of mind that the best interest of the dealer was always top of mind. Being an unbiased third party, BZ Consultants always made sure to relay the reports in easy, relatable, and actionable ways so that Nathan could best utilize the data. Now, Nathan can focus on what he really wanted, the customer experience and growth. By being your digital marketing business partner, BZ Consultants Group will remove the hassle of trying to hold your vendors accountable and increase your productivity with the time you will now have armed with true data. Together, we make it possible because your success is our goal.
Welcome into the Furniss Fast Lane. Facts, not feelings. Furniss Fast Lane. How is everyone doing? You're probably looking at the screen right now thinking, wait a second, isn't Chad Graves supposed to be part of this? Yes, he's here, but not physically here. He's here spiritually. He's here every other way. He had a family emergency come up yesterday. If you did not see the post, he lost our family dog yesterday. So he's a little out of commission today, but you do get me. We'll keep this shorter day because as nice as it is to tune in every day, you're not really tuning in, I'm sure, for me. You're tuning in for the guests and they're the banter back and forth. So we will keep this show a little shorter today. Say that 10 times fast. So as I say that, as I'm tongue tying like that, and I couldn't get the words out, let's just recap the joys of going live. So right before you go live, my contact, and for those who don't know, I have hard contacts. And as fun as that is not, it's like putting full like glass in your eye. So when it pops out or gets stuck, below here, up there, it doesn't tickle. So I don't know if it's coming through, but it's like my eyes all red. I can barely see out this eye right now. So we had that happen. And anyone that has ever had any type of, I apologize, I haven't got the comments here. Hey, Larry, how's it going? Good to see you, friend. Brian, I actually was just going to text you of the chaos that's happening right before I went live. It's the content comes out. I can't see anything. Then for those that ever had this happen, it happens to me all the time, but it's called the rib comes out. Well, the back of your spine, your ribs attached there and they come around to the front, right? Well, in essence, what happens, it's sublux, which means it's like a partial dislocation. This happens to me all the time. You just pop them back in. Like I just have this nice little crossball, actually right there that I keep handy all the time and just pop them back in. But it makes it difficult to breathe sometimes. It happens all the time. So I have the contact pop out. I've got a rib pop. I got to pop like 3 or 4 ribs in. And it's just like, then I had something else happen with the digital stuff. I go, well, if we don't go on time, we don't go on time. And I go, Brian, I think that you would 100% relate to that because I know that you deal with the chaos of video and videography and anything that can happen in between. So on top of all that, we have March Madness going on right now. And I am curious how your brackets are doing. Let me know in the comments how your brackets doing. Are you at this point just like light it on fire? I'm done. I did call Kentucky getting upset yesterday. I did not like Kentucky. Kentucky's a very nice school, very nice. Calipari is a very nice coach. But for me is I just didn't see them good past the first round. So that one I did pretty well on. Larry, if you can't see, how will you tell them their baby is like, that's just feel, buddy. That's just my intuition, me doing this long time. I'm like, I can just tell that your baby's ugly. And we need to have a chat about that. That's how I do it, Larry. But yeah, so we've got 2 games going on right now. And normally I would be having in the background, but I don't want anytime I do any type of streaming, I want to make sure all the browsers are shut down. I don't want anything distracting or pulling from the internet. I know I have gig speed internet, but you just try to take all precautions. So 1, how's your bracket doing? Number 2, go ahead and put some updates on the scores. You got Northwestern playing right now, which is obviously near and dear to our area. So we definitely watch, follow them. And yeah, so that's the nitty gritty. I was like to try to like go through and I just go, screw it. Like it's a Friday and all hell is broken loose over here. So, on top of that, we've got like 6 inches of snow outside. Let me just recap. It's March 22nd, and we've got minimum 6 inches of snow out there, and it's supposed to keep snowing. It's like 3 p.m. So I'm not really happy. I think the first day of spring was yesterday, and it definitely is not spring here. Brian is saying only bracket I care about right now is slightly over 40. Brian, and I got you on that one, buddy. Like, I will just keep voting and keep voting for you. So if you're unaware, I did see, I don't know if you saw Dusty Sutherland's bracket about who's best, Dusty or Dusty. And I was like, I might start a bracket here just because I feel like it. Why not? Everyone else seems to be. But Brian, you're doing an awesome job, and it's well deserved, buddy. I can't remember who you're going up against this week. I don't remember. Who are you going up against this week? I remember voting, but I do not remember who it was. So it's you guys are down to like 20 right now. I want to say something like that. I don't know, but something like that. So go vote for Mr. Brian Ortega because he is always doing amazing things. In fact, Brian, I was talking about you last night to a friend, just like how different tools and stuff you use, and I'm like, go check out Valley High Toyota, and you'll get some good ideas there. So you're always my go-to on that one. So I appreciate that, buddy. So we got snow outside. We got March Madness, which apparently the snow was March Madness. I don't know what's going on with that. And it's just it's been a little bit of a weird morning, to say the least, of all sorts of stuff going on here. And before we jump into the takeaways from the show, if you have not had a chance to go, I'm actually going to throw this in the chat here. I had the opportunity to be on CBT News again, and that's just, if there's such an incredible company that constantly moves the industry forward. And talk about a production, man. You got a news anchor, you got news anchors, you got a super impressive and professional desk and studio and everything between. And it's just always such an honor. The first time I got asked this to be interviewed, I was just like blown away. I was like, wow, seriously, me? Like, okay, I'll roll with that. I just hope I can live up to everyone else that's been on the show. And we had a chance to be back on it yesterday. It dropped yesterday, talking all about GA4, which kind of goes into what we're talking about today. It was just the SEO and everything like that. But if you've not had a chance, definitely go check out, preferably my episode, but go check out all of them. They do such a wonderful job there. And huge shout out to Jim and Cheyenne and everyone else behind the scenes that's making the magic happen. It was a fun little interview, and hopefully the second of many, hopefully, is the plan. So thank you everyone for the support and for those that reached out. In fact, April and we've got a group text chain of like April Simmons and myself and Sarah, Hannah and Lori, and I think it was April that sent it over. I was like, man, I didn't even know. I had no idea the episode was even dropping. So April, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. All right, so let's jump into this. So we just had a great episode with our good friend, Chad Graves, who I love dearly. He's a great friend of mine. And Russell, welcome. Hey, buddy. Hope that your Friday is going awesome. Hope it's going great. And you're not having to deal with snow. I don't think you're going to deal with snow in Texas, but I did talk to someone yesterday from Texas, and they're like, oh yeah, it's like down to 60 degrees. I was like, it's at the time it was 27 degrees. I was like, you know what? I have no sympathy for you at all. So, but like I said, we had this great episode with Chad, and once again, just appreciate him coming on the show. And for those who are joining now and you're thinking, why is only Brooke on the screen? Chad had a family emergency, so he is unable to join, but I'm sure that at some point he'll go back, and if you have a question, reach out to him. He is super easy to find. Find him on LinkedIn. You can email him. You can probably anything like that, and he'll get in touch with you. And the same team with the team at Reunion. They're great people over there, and they're happy to help any way possible. So couple of takeaways. And for you're saying it's great there. Do you want to, my brother Russell full out sent photos. They're in Cancun right now. He's like, sorry, it sucks. And he lives in Idaho, but he's like, sorry, it sucks. It's gorgeous right here. I was like, oh, really? Send some of that sunshine our way. Like we should not have 6 inches of snow on March 22nd. And I'm pretty sure any flowers that have bloomed, and our flowers bloomed really early this year, they're going to all be dead after this nice little snowstorm. So because we don't have Chad here, I'm going to ask for your engagement more than normal of what were some of your takeaways from the episode that dropped yesterday. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, to the YouTube channel, it's at just BZ Consultants Group. Go check it out. And then you won't miss anything. Like you're obviously getting the live version here, but the YouTube is going to have everything up there. So, all right. So it's coming to you. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Russell. I appreciate that. I'm hoping so. It's at some point, I think we get back at the 50, I don't know, sometime next week. I don't know. It's Chicago. It's schizophrenic weather. We have snow, and the next day can be like 80 degrees. So we just never know. That keeps us on our toes. So one of my main takeaways, when we covered SEO, we covered AI, we covered reputation management, we covered so many areas that all, when it comes back to it, has to do with SEO. So with you all right now, do you Do you have an in-house team that's doing your SEO and SEM? Do you have it outsourced? Is it in one company under one roof? Do you have multiple? Russell is saying, am I the only one here? There were a couple other people. Larry was here. Brian was commenting earlier. I'm not sure who else is on. So I can see that on Facebook land that, oh, hey, Allison, how are you doing? I'm here, but in California, no snow. Yeah, well, it's better in California. My brother lives in Thousand Oaks. So you guys are, we don't have to deal with the mudslides and the earthquakes like you all do, but your weather definitely beats us by a long shot there, Allison. So now I can see who's like chiming in and then see who's watching over here, but it doesn't tell me LinkedIn wise who's watching. So I love StreamYard, but that's one thing it doesn't tell you is it won't post to LinkedIn and it won't tell you who's viewing from LinkedIn. So anyways, so the SEO portion, we covered so many different areas. And I am curious here if, hello to you, Allison. We've got Rob coming in. You're not alone, Russell. Thank you. Oh, look at this. See, it takes Russell saying something, not me, apparently. Russell, we're going to have you come back on the show, buddy. In fact, Russell, one of the things we got into as well from the SEO portion of it is having a hard time signing LinkedIn. Peter, no worries, buddy. We love you. Don't worry about it. You're an OG. And another one from Rob saying you're not alone. Thank you very much, everyone. Is Russell, you're talking about different areas of SEO and how when a lot of times you go, I'd say the majority of times you go to a dealership and you're like, okay, where's your spend being spent? Where's your advertising dollars being spent? Where's your SEO dollars being spent? And you rank them from, most important of fixed ops, sales, blah, blah, blah. Fixed ops always comes in last. Yet that's your repeat referral business. There's a reason why it says fixed in the name. It's fixed ops, not variable. It is so important that, and too often that does become the redheaded stepchild. And you all know I have a very soft spot for fixed ops and how important that is. So we were, talking, Russell, about, hey, there's even dedicated, companies out there, or dedicated services out there just for fixed ops, and how important it is to have those and focus on that. Because when you look at the SEO so often, like oil change is one of the number one things that people are searching. And Rob, sorry, go back here real quickly. Russell, thank you, Rob and Allison. Variable is where most of it goes. It is. And it's the crazy part. And I've told this stat before, but for those that are new, I'm going to say it again. If your Google ads and Google Analytics is not set correctly, and you're looking at your SEM spend, you go and say, okay, yeah, well, most of it's spent on the variable side, the sales side. But if you go and look at your phone calls, 83% of the phone calls will be for service and fixed ops. But who's paying for it? Sales is. So why wouldn't it behoove you? First off, who says behoove? Isn't that like a 1980 phrase, but I just said it 1950 phrase. But looking at that and saying, are we set up to be the most optimized and be in the most places that where the customer is, and knowing that sales is paying for that campaign, but 83% of the phone calls that come in are for service. And if you go back and look at those 13% of the people that call them for sales, I forget the stats off the top of my head, but it is staggering how many called, never got anybody to talk to them, never had no one called them back. So now that small tiny third of 13%, if your stuff is not set up correctly, you're losing all of that. Well, the majority, it's a very high number, and it's like 80% or something like that. Very, very high number. So it's so, so important. And Russell, I figured you'd be okay with that. I'm sure there's going to be some other people that are watching this or have it in the background or on podcast land that they're going to hear this like, yes, I could not agree more. It's so true. Russell, Peter saying dealers are mistaken when the belief where to distribute their spend and trade. Peter, I just slaughtered that, but I think you're saying dealers are mistaken when they believe where to distribute their spends and trade. It is. And that brings me to something we talked about last week with like the Comply Auto situation. I mean, for those that are unaware, Comply Auto cluster that's going on right now, and it's also happening with Comply Net. It's not just Comply Auto. Comply Auto is getting a lot of the attention right now. But if you opt into that Comply Auto agreement, it is saying that you will lose all access to GA4. You're flying blind. So going back to just throwing darts at dartboard, kind of what Peter's saying here is we don't know for spends and training and everything like that. You will not have any insight now. I am not a lawyer. I'm not telling you to go bash somebody. I'm just saying, get your legal team in order and say, is our privacy policy is robust as it can be? Is there any way that we can have this privacy be so freaking awesome that we don't have to opt into Comply Auto? Because if you don't opt into it, you are opening yourself up to legal ramifications potentially. So there's so many moving parts. So really, I cannot stress enough, please, 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 please get with your legal team. Make sure that privacy policy is iron freaking clad. I cannot stress enough. Because if you opt into this, once again, I'm going to repeat this, you opt into Comply Auto, you lose. We're seeing, and I'm talking to multiple people, Zach was on here last week talking about as well, you lose up to 90% of your traffic that you just can't see anymore. And he's seeing that as the same with Comply Net. So just be really, really cautious before you opt in or opt out of anything, and do your due diligence. Peter's saying typing with thumbs today. Sorry, don't worry about it, dude. Like I'm working with like half a body at this point, so no worries. Joe is saying the perception is dealers do not need to advertise for their service department. They're already overbooked. This is very short. And Joe, thank you for bringing that up. That is something that I will always go to say, okay, how far booked out are you right now? How many technicians do you need? Do you need more? Our good friend on here is Larry Feldman. He can get you freaking employees. Like I've never seen, and it's not just because Larry's a good friend of mine. I have never seen anybody get more hires than he can. And he's a hell of a trainer on top of that. And as anyone knows, Larry, I mean, 3 hours and no one's going to the bathroom and no one's looking at their iPhone. Like, so Larry is incredible at what he does. So if you need more technicians, that's a easy problem to solve. It might seem difficult, but as long as you know the right people, you can get that solved. And then when someone, going to your point, Joe, looking at it and say, okay, well, we don't have it. Okay, if you're not going to spend money on the SEM portion of it, then look at the SEO and the evergreen campaigns. Do you have a why buy service campaign? I'm just going to stop there. Because if I go to a website right now, 98% of websites, the landing page is what? It is all about selling the damn car. Now, that's great, but we want that repeat and referral business. It's not all about acquisition. So how much of your website, when you go to your landing page, is service-driven and fixed ops driven and everything along those lines? And then from there, do you have evergreen campaigns about why buy from service? Maybe you have. I've done so many of these. Then one of the biggest hurdles that I saw over and over again. I started this in 2010. So I'm going to go back here. 2010, we were doing this and figured out that the biggest hurdle for that client of mine was people didn't know where to pull into the service drive. Like, how many of you actually think about like, oh, wow, maybe that's a problem for our consumers. So we did a whole video campaign on that. It got so many views. And if you look at fixed ops versus variable, you'll almost always see the variable videos, or the fixed ops videos do better than the variable. It's just how it is. So go through and those top 10 questions you get asked all the time. Do videos about these. There's so many ways you can do this. I am more than happy to help. Obviously, I'm very passionate about that portion of it. But that's just there's so many things. So Joe, you are straight, completely on that one, like 100% dead on that one. So thank you for that. Peter's saying 100% absorption is the goal. So why do we treat it like that? And I agree, Peter. It's something that drives me bonkers. Or I love that when they're like, you'll ask someone, they're like, oh, I don't know how much we spend on service. Okay, if you don't know, then it's probably not a whole lot, if any. And then also understand how service campaigns do versus sales campaigns. I mean, how much is your spend on it? What's the engagement, right? If you just continue to see that, hey, our service pages as a whole continue to decline, that is a huge red flag. Something is not working. Because if we don't have people coming to our service pages, our coupons, our tire pages, our service center page, all those things, that means that they're not coming back to you. And that's a big problem, really, really big problem. So looking to see how is that traffic coming, and is it working accordingly, or do we see it disproportionate, which is a very difficult word for me to say. Peter's saying we need to spend in service as they are the teams that carry the dealership. And it's yeah. And especially right now where people are holding on to their cars longer, and it's been that way for a little bit, really looking at that and saying, what else can we do? Do we have a mobile service? And I know it's not SEO related. It can be SEO related, but having those services, those white glove services. I just interviewed a gal that her episode will drop here in about a month, and we talked just how they do their used car lot, and they do an incredible job with concierge service. And it's like, are we stepping up to do the same thing? Do we have the employees to be able to do that? Maybe we don't even have employees to do that. We don't have the means to do that. Or, hey, we're in a spot, being in Chicago. I know there's certain spots of Chicago that you might not want to do mobile service to that area. You might get shot. It's a good possibility. So understand like how the logistics of it, before you put anything in place, once again, working backwards to work forward to say, can we do this? Is it going to enhance our people and process? Do we have the people in place? Everything in between. So we'll get off the fixed ops portion of this, but that was something for me that was so big, is that I just see time and time again that we have so much of our website dedicated to sales, which is great. I love sales, love it. Service is is the meat of everything. Because if they're not coming back, if they're not buying tires from us, they're not going to buy from another car for us. As we all know, it's 5 to 10 times more expensive to acquire a customer than it is to just keep that customer. All right. Number 2 was we talked about AI. Now, AI has been talked about a lot. Talked about a little bit last week as well with Zach and just how this new Google algorithm we've talked about. Let me rewind. We talked about before how AI, well, it's awesome. I use it all the time. I'm a big advocate of it. If you were to simply copy and pasting that into whatever, that is a huge no-no. Why is it a no-no? One, there's a watermark on it. Now Google's new algorithm says if it's seen that you are just using all GPT, all AI more or less, it's going to dock you for that. I was recently in a meeting and the agency at hand was saying how I specifically asked, hey, are all of your blogs manually written or are you using AI? And I got the back and forth, and the main bullet point was that, oh no, we manually do everything. We use AI to generate the topics. When I went and checked all of their blogs for multiple sites, how much do you think was written manually versus AI? Being told with everyone on the line that we don't do this. It ranged at the low part. I am live. Hey, Robert, good to see you, buddy. Hey, Robert, see, you may not catch the walk and talk live, but you're catching this live. So good to see you, buddy. So we went through and looked at it, and it was anywhere there was one blog that had 24%, which, okay, I'll take that. The rest of them between 60 and 96% were written by AI. So am I saying that all agencies do this? No, but I'm just saying to inspect what you expect. Go back and look and see. I use the site Zero GPT. It's a great site. Just literally copy and paste the text into what it is. And you can see, is it AI written? Is it manually written? So if you have a company right now that's writing your blogs, maybe just do a spot check on them real quick, like, and say, is this a manual written content? Like it's okay to generate ideas and taking some of that's fine, but you've really got to make sure you put that personalized touch on it or Google is going to dock you severely for this. It's like in the very first, I think the first sentence, the first paragraph of the new algorithm update, it specifically says anything to more or less gain the system, and using all AI is going to be a part of it. Now, that being said, you should also be looking for companies that use AI to an extent of, if they're not looking to improve, they're just saying, AI is not that great, or it's, it's all sorcery. It's, what's it? Mirrors and smoke and mirrors. There we go. Smoke and mirrors. Maybe take a look at it a little bit deeper and figure out why they're not using it. Now, is it because, hey, we're a chat provider and we don't want to put full out AI on the site? Well, of course, that totally makes sense. But are they using another way to automate tasks? So really looking to see, is a company that you're using for, whether it's SEO or anything, are they doing something to continually improve? I mean, if you're not using AI, you are really, really behind the times. And a lot of companies do use it, but it might not be public facing for legal reasons. So also understand that, okay, oh, I get it. Now I understand, but really ask your vendor, your vendor partners, hey, how are you guys using AI? How are you looking to use AI? Little things like that. Yeah, I'm going to take a quick breath here because I've been talking. I usually have someone else here that I can, banter back and forth, and I've got you all here, which is great. So some of the other things that we talked about, we were, just come off the heels of when we did the episode. I think it was like a week after NADA, I want to say something like that. And we were just talking in general, like how SEO and all these other products, you'll real quickly want to, not just SEO, that and even Zach and I talked about that, you'll come back and there's all these bright, shiny lights, right? And you're walking down, you're like, oh, that looks cool. That looks cool. Maybe I need that. And you'll buy something without ever really thinking, we call it, the red shiny object syndrome. You'll buy it without ever thinking it through of, wait a minute, is this going to enhance my people and process? Have I talked to my people about this and how it's going to affect our process? Because a product should never be added until you've done that vetting and done it pretty extensively to understand that this is not just affecting sales. It's affecting our fixed ops department. It's affecting our finance department. It's affecting our BDC department. So looking at all those as in a holistic approach to say, will this affect be a positive impact on the store and our business? And even like a lot of people forget about the receptionist. The receptionist, that's the gatekeeper. So if we change something and it's going to affect her in he or she anyway, man, we better be checking ourselves real quickly to understand, hey, let's get everyone in a room and let's talk about this. And then when you do make that switch, make sure that it's across the board. And what I mean by that is, top on down. Because if you make a switch and you're like, maybe, And it's really comes across that there's not going to be any, I think it's Brian Kramer's words that burn the ships in the harbor, that everyone needs to be on board with this. If not, there's the door, because you're doing something that after all that extensive research and looking at everything and reconnaissance to know that, hey, we really need to do this to be better. And Jordan, I see you coming in here, buddy. I like bright, shiny things. A self-aware GM at every dealership across the country. Yes. Yeah, man, it's a fun one, man. I'll just say it that way. And Jordan, I hope that you and wifey are getting some sleep. You got a little newborn there, so congrats on that, and hope you guys are getting a little bit of sleep there. I just spaced the name of your child. Was it Emery? I might be wrong on that one, but I apologize if I'm wrong on that one. But I hope you all are doing great on that with having a newborn there. So like I said, we covered so many different aspects, from website providers to SEO and how that affects it. I do want to touch a little bit on reputation management, because that is such a big one. And I mean, I want to say it was probably 7 years ago that Google came out, that's Google or Bright Local, came out with a study from Google stating, if you are not answering reviews, how that affects your local SEO ranking. And it affects it pretty drastically, as it turns out. Funny concept. So when you go and look, and you may be using an OEM product that it automatically responds for you, or using a third party that automatically responding, just go back and spot check that every single review is being answered. And if you can, I'm begging you, personalize those response. It is when you go to get a new restaurant, or wherever you're looking something, we always are going to go to Google, check it out. All right, they got 4.2 stars. And while it's great to look at the positive reviews, how many of us go to the negative reviews to see how they responded? Like, I know I do, like, because there's people that just want to watch the world burn, and they're just gonna bash you regardless. But some of those are legitimate issues, and going back and saying, how did they handle this? Because that's really, really big to me, to see how they handled it. And I know it is for others, but if you're not answering those reviews, and if, as in, we are an auto, so you got a sales listing, or you should, a parts listing, a service listing, maybe a body, whatever, how many listings you have, do they even have reviews other than the sales listing? If they do, are we answering them? Are we keeping them up to date? Who is going through and optimizing, not just how you answer? Because that is key too. If you have a bad review and you're answering it with, oh, we're so sorry you had a bad review at ABC Motors, why are you putting your name in that review? Like, just a quick tidbit, don't do that. Put your name in the good reviews, because from an SEO standpoint, do you want people searching your name and seeing a bunch of bad reviews pop up? Probably not. So how you answer each of those should be very strategic. And then we go into Google Business Profile and more, and that is your number one free advertising tool. Now, there have been some changes lately where we're seeing the map pack go lower down on the page. That being said, if you go into your Google Analytics correct right now, if it's set up correctly, very key that the audience are set up correctly, that the audiences and that all the events, everything, and the conversions and definition, everything is set up correctly. Go and look at see your number one lead sources coming in your channel. It will, if it's set up correctly, it should be organic, which means it's coming from your Google Business Profile. And knowing that, okay, what button are they clicking on the most? Do we have our UTMs? Are we updating the photos? I've told the story before. I think I have but if not, I'm going to tell it again here. I mean, when I was in a dealership, we had 2 dealerships in the same exact parking lot. But what would happen you would think that would be equal, that, okay, whatever we do, we'll post 1 or 2 photos, we'll do this, we'll have some offers, yada, yada, yada. What we found is that one store in particular for like 3 months the traffic kept decreasing and the engagement kept decreasing. Well, in order to rectify that is that we had to add more photos every single month. And that all of a sudden, boom, it popped back up. And did you just say Matt Pat? I did not. But I said Matt Pack, but I just say Matt Pat as I read this now, Jordan. So I never heard of Matt Pat, but now I'm going to have to go look this up now. So thank you for that. And Jordan runs a dealership, so he knows how important, and he's on the digital side of things. So he understands how important all of this is. Like, it is incredibly, incredibly important. So that is, I'm trying to think of, I'm going through my notes here. We've done the SEO portion. We've done the review portion, customer journey. And yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that is changing. Paid is still a big portion of what we do. I'm not saying get rid of it. In fact, that's not what I'm saying at all. It's just inspecting that to say, okay, how much are we spending? What's the ROI on it? Are we getting more bang for our buck for that? Looking at that and understanding how how that all correlates to business at home, and understand the person clicking on a paid ad, it's a completely different customer than your organic customer. If someone clicks on an ad now, right now on March 22nd with freaking 6 to 7 inches of snow outside, that doesn't mean I'm going to buy a car in 30 days. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. It takes much longer. In fact, the stats that we're seeing there is it taking longer than it normally does when that happens. So keeping that all in mind, looking at it at a quarterly perspective is a little bit better, because they may click on something. And Chad told the story. He has had an Apple Pencil in his cart for months. I myself, when the short, like I said, it was back in like February when we did this, I had 3 pairs of Jordans sitting in my cart. As of like 2 days ago, I finally purchased those. So, and this is someone who knows I'm going to buy. I buy all the freaking time, but it just takes much longer to make a decision. You're talking to your friends, you're vetting things. And George, I'm coming to you, buddy. I just saw yours pop up here. Reviews can be scraped and mined for sentimental analysis and customer experience. Yeah. And that's something too, George, you bring up a good point there, is that with the cars rule that's coming down the pike here shortly, which is all kinds of fun for us, to say the least. That is something. If you're putting your reviews on your site, like I'm all for that. And prior to now, it would be you'd probably only put 4 stars and above, so those would automatically filter, and it'd be like a live feed. It's awesome, it's great, fantastic. The issue with that now, with the cars rule, assuming that everything goes forward, is that you have to show all your reviews. So anyone that out there that has that, just keep that in mind there. Unless anything changes, and Tom Klein, keep me honest if you're on here. Jordan, I see you. Get 1 second, buddy. I'm laughing because I just saw your comment pop up. That's a really, really big one, is to know, okay, what's the star review? And according to Cars Rule, you have to showcase all of those. So yeah, George, very, very, very good point there. I'm all for that. Plus, you can take that. Nathaniel, you do a great job with this. Greklick is, hey, we're going to have 5-star Friday. We're going to have whatever. And we're going to have people, we'll have our employees. Not when I say employees, that's sales, that's service, that's BDC, whomever is that's got a 5-star review, they go and spotlight that. Like there's so many things, or you can put it onto social media. If you don't want to do the whole video portion of it, you can use reviews, as I try to say that word, in different ways. And Jordan, I see you only 3 pairs. Yes, Jordan, I have been so damn good. This is the first pair I purchased since November. So I just want you all to appreciate the fact that I've been like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And I finally broke down. So yes. And to Brian, prompt those numbers up. I know. I've been such a good girl. I looked at the 2024 release calendar last year. I was like, man, there's some big ones coming up here that we're going to have to be saving a little bit here, and pump it louder. I just had, thank you, all of the Black Eyed Peas in my head there. I love Greg. Yeah. 5-star Will series. Yes. And I have used that example so many times, and it resonates so well. Yet so many dealerships, even when you give them the keys to the kingdom and say, do this, not everyone's going to do it. Those that want to take the extra step and do it, you look at, and Nathaniel, if you go back and watch this at some point or hear it, like, I am curious if those posts do better than the other ones, because you're highlighting the customer. The customer loves that, and people love happy people and people that hearing the good portion of things. So from what I've seen, when dealerships do this, and it doesn't matter, it could be any business, those get some of the most clicks, the most engagement, because it's you're showcasing someone else. Pumps for Reeboks. Oh my God. So, okay, Brian, so you bring this up here. So I don't know if you remember Reebok. So they had the pumps, which talk about a great shoe that was. Then they brought the DMX. Do you remember the DMX that came out? I think it came out in, I got to do my math on here. Maybe 99, 98, I want to say. I freaking love those shoes. I had the first rendition of them. They're black, white, and like silver. I thought it was the coolest person ever. They were so comfy. Except if anyone's not aware what the DMX are, it's not the wrapper, but the shoes, is that they have like these little pods at the bottom of the shoes, which I'm doing a very bad job of showcasing this. But when one would go out, you'd be like limping to the side. And I was like, oh, well, they were nice. And now I'm like going to the side now because like the air in them just kind of, yeah. So instead of having like the Nike air bubble on the side, the Reeboks had them all underneath. Oh my gosh, they were so comfy. So anyone who's unaware of what I have, sorry, I just looked at some of these things coming through here, and I'm laughing at some of these ones coming through here. But yes, Brian, I totally remember them. Review them shoes. Yes. I do. Luckily, I know what I'm going to buy for the most part. Like I've been collecting shoes for 30 years now. So the most part, I know what I'm getting. But it's still like, right, and before he jumped on, my friend and I were texting back and forth, like, dude, did you see these kicks that these Jays just released? There was nothing about them being released. They just dropped them out of nowhere. And so for the most part, I usually know what I'm getting. And George, nobody believes your curated 5-star only reviews on your website. Anyway, George, that is so true. It's, yeah. And for those that watch this stuff on a constant basis, in 2021, it was just, I saw a lot of dealerships, their reviews just plummet. There was a lot of stuff going on in 2021, right? And 2022 saw the same thing. And I had one in particular that went from, they have, I don't know, they've got like 3,000 reviews. So to go up or down on 3,000 reviews is difficult. They dropped almost a half star, like from like 4.8 down to 4.4. Sorry, it's 4.2. Yeah, 0.6%. Is that right? 0.6%, more or less a half a star. And I go, that is really difficult. Really difficult to do. So yes, and then when you go on their website, of course, it's 4 and 5 stars everywhere. We love them, whatever. So George, you bring up a very, very good point. And to your point, George, if I go onto Google and I see that you have a 5-star rating on 1,000 reviews, there's no way in hell that you have 5 stars on 1,000 reviews. If you have 10, maybe, but not 1,000, those have been altered significantly, or you're paying for your reviews. And we all know that just about every business out there does that. So very, very true. There's a lot of studies on this as well. Jordan, Brian Ortega, what's the Reebok? Thank you. It was great. Jordan is saying, George, I'd rate George Jones 5 out of 5, would buy again. The weather outside, I'd rent 0 stars and do not recommend. That's what I would, 0 stars for the weather outside right now. But yes, I agree, George. George is a very smart human being. I agree with you there, Jordan. So there's so many things, like I said, from this episode, we covered so many different angles and so many different areas that I know Chad is not with us here. He's taking care of his family, and then his dog passed away, family dog that they've had for years. So allow him to do that. But if any questions, reach out to him. Please reach out to him. Reunion is a great, great company, and there's great people there. And once again, April, thank you so much for the introduction to them. So I think we've covered all of it. If you've watched the episode already and I missed something, or maybe you're like, hey, no, my number one takeaway was this, throw it in the chat. I'll stay here for a little bit. In the meantime, I know we've got March Madness going on, and I'm guessing, like most of you, is that you have it playing on the background. And I've got to go look here shortly. My bracket's doing okay. Hope everyone else's bracket is not completely up in flames at this point, but it usually is by the first round. Brian is saying, I'd take George Jones over Tom Jones any days. It's not unusual. And I got that it's not unusual song. Every time you guys comment on those, like Brian and Jordan, like I get some song stuck in my head for the rest of the day. So thank you for that, by the way. All right, everyone, we're going to get out of here. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great weekend. If you're having crazy weather like we are, please stay warm, stay safe. And as always, you all know the drill at this point. Find a way to serve today. I do not care if it is a kind smile. Maybe it's opening a car door. If you're out here, maybe it's shoveling the walk for someone. Take your snowblower and go do a good deed for the day. It takes, thank you, Russell, by the way. Thank you. It takes nothing to be kind, and we need more of that in this world. So everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great weekend. With that, everyone, we will see everybody next week.